Okay, here we are. This is really exciting. Another edition of Riding with the Rabbi. A very, very cold edition. And with me in the car, I have the Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, most recently Tahesha.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you in the car. So I'm just going to preface this by saying there is a very, very important primary election happening this week, Thursday this week. Early voting has begun, and it is a field that is chock full of candidates. But I wanted you all to meet the Lieutenant Governor. And why don't you just tell us a little about yourself? Like, where are you from? Like, how did you get into politics? Like, what are you doing in my car? Like,
Well, I'm loving your car, Rabbi, and thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Tahesha. You know, I grew up in the Bronx, New York. You know, I came from a union household. My
Yankees fan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yankees fan. You know, my dad, he was that bus driver. My mom, she was the underground token clerk, and they both, you know, really felt strongly about being caretakers of the public. They showed that to my brother, Keith, and myself. And then, you know, I kept that to heart. Then at 19, I suffered the hemorrhage, the brain hemorrhage, which really, you know, as a junior in college, I attended Brown University. That was like that true inflection moment in my life.
I mean, that's got to be pretty traumatic. You have such a serious health crisis at a young age, and to be able to power through that and really kind of almost, I guess, recreate yourself. Is that an accurate description?
It sure is. And you know, the insurance of my parents paid for the hospital stay and my multiple surgeries, but they denied my occupational therapy, Rabbi. So it was at that moment in which I had to independently retrain my own self how to read.
Wow.
Due to the side effects. Leaned in faith, became a fighter, and you know, that's ultimately when I said I wanted to go to law school, got into University of Virginia School of Law, and just wanted to not only make a difference in the courtroom, but make a difference in our community and make others' lives whole, like my medical team did for me, right? And so fast forward, I became a Passaic County commissioner. I'm a resident of Wayne, mom of 4, got to New Jersey because my husband, he was drafted by the New York Football Giants, played there, he worked there after his field days came to an end. And so I also have served as a college educator. I've been a lead attorney at a Passaic County, let's say, Board of Social Services. I've served as a state judge, and now, you know, just several weeks ago, I was New Jersey Secretary of State and Lieutenant Governor.
So yeah, now you're just getting warmed up, right?
I sure am, you know, serving in 3 branches of government, understanding the interplay of it all, and now, you know, so much is going on nationally. We're at a breaking point.
Oh yeah.
You know, and as a mom of 4, 4 girls, and I'm still breathing.
I can relate. Trust me.
Exactly.
4 girls in our house, we call that a good start.
It sure is. It sure is. They are my BFFs. They inspire me every day. But I have to say, you know, given this is the national climate that we are in, you know, I said for my daughters, for all of the kids out there, you know, our health care is being crippled. Opportunities are getting crushed. Antisemitism is on the rise. You know, the need for safety, you know, wanting to continue to battle the hate that's going on. And now looking our neighborhoods, ICE, what's going on too. And the moral compass is really gone.
Yes, I'd love to talk about the anti-Semitism. So you're the Lieutenant Governor, the Secretary of State.
Yes.
And that's 8 years with with Governor Murphy.
Yep.
And I know you were involved in something called the Israel Commission.
Sure was.
Could you explain to our viewers what that is?
You know what? Israel Commission was one of my pride and joys. And that's where, as a commission, I think there was about 80 members, right? But given it was in my department, I was the lead in ensuring that not just the education and the culture, right, of Israel and her people was made known and aware in the state, but also, we did good work in ensuring the economic trade and value between New Jersey and Israel increased, I want to say annually, billions of dollars each year. And at the same time, we really doubled down on the need to fight anti-Semitism. I even say, the one beautiful thing about what we and I accomplished at the Israel Commission was partnering it with my MLK Junior Commission, because as a Black American, African American, there's such great histories between our communities, which I would hope that we can renew and revive.
One would think we should be more aligned than we actually are.
Exactly. And I even, look at our history with Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Heschel, Rabbi Prince. And this is where a moment such as this in our nation's history, right, that we should all be going back to that specific time and that specific moment.
So you very involved. Israel. Actually, I think the first time of many that I met Governor Murphy was in Israel.
Yes.
Believe it or not. But one of the things that kind of, I guess, for our community that marked the end of the term, and not in the greatest way, and as you know, I was one of the co-authors on a letter to Governor Murphy expressing our, let's just say, discontent with the non-passing of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. So let's say you're going to run, well, we'll talk about the election here, but you're running here. People might associate you with that. What is your position on the IHRA definition, and as far as our state goes, when there are 35 states at least that have accepted and adopted that definition?
Yeah, you just stated it. 35 states have already adopted it. With all due respect to Governor Murphy and to other of the governing partners in the legislature, I was very disappointed. And I was very vocal. I came out with a public statement that IHRA definitely should have been codified in our state. I always look at New Jersey as being a state which values the safety of her residents, right? Inclusiveness. And I'm even an attorney by trade. I told you, moments ago, went to law school. I was a civil litigator. So I understand fully, what a First Amendment challenge is. And in this case, I look at, again, the work that I did with the Israel Commission, Rabbi. When after October the 7th, at the remembrance ceremony, and just hearing, and this was at B'nai Jeshurun, I was there because, of course, I always, wanted to be part of protecting the Jewish community. And so when I was at Jeshurun, and a Rutgers student spoke about the violence and hate that was leveled against him as a student at Rutgers, I went back to my Israel Commission members and I said, okay, we're going to perfect a letter and hold these college presidents accountable, because this is totally unacceptable. And the administration did the right thing and forwarded to the university presidents. But getting back to IHRA, I say, this is what we all should be doing, because this is the foundation to fight anti-Semitism and making it clear, right, through education department, that this is not going to be tolerated, right? And again, for me as a mom, it's unacceptable altogether not to want to protect our kids from this. I am tired of getting calls from my Jewish friends telling me about their children at college who are not only, slandered, they get damaging threats towards them, swastikas on their doors monthly. What are we saying as a people not to protect and do the right thing? I also say, getting back to our communities, I wouldn't be sitting in your car right? Without a Civil Rights Act, I wouldn't have sat as a county commissioner, a state judge, a lieutenant governor, a secretary of state. I understand there are two different legislations, but at the end of the day, the basic premise is to fight discrimination, treat people equally, wholeheartedly, and to protect them.
And we certainly appreciate that, and we're just trying to bring this issue to the fore because we don't want it to get lost. I know there's the assembly, they have to go kind of start from scratch almost.
Yes.
And it's enough. We don't want people to lose awareness of it. You know, a lot of people don't even know IHRA. IHRA, what is that? My uncle IHRA? It's IHRA. Extremely important. And I think another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that when you talk about safety and security is the National Security Grant Program,
Yes.
in which I and many of my colleagues will tell you we spend an inordinate amount of time in the last few years, really since Pittsburgh, since that Tree of Life shooting, of dealing with security issues and homeland security grants and state grants and local relationships with law enforcement. So what are your thoughts on the grant process, like what we should be doing for our synagogues, what we could do better for our synagogues?
Well, again, my time as secretary and lieutenant governor working with the Israel Commission, and you just said it, Rabbi, the state grants. And that was bringing the Interfaith Council together, Homeland Security on the state level, the Office of Attorney General, Israel Commission members. We're making sure that these grants hit the synagogues, are there front and center to ensure the safety, right, needs. But moving forward in DC, and I've had experience in dealing with making certain that these dollars go to the right places. You said it, the non-profit security grant programs, just streamlining the importance, making sure there's a robust, right, coffers and resources for synagogues, for schools, and that'll be a top priority, of mine moving forward. Again, I've had the experience of bringing in those dollars on the statewide level through the Israel Commission in partnership with others. In addition to, the anti-Semitism bill, making sure that my voice is heard and that law does too come to fruition.
Because it's not so easy getting the grants. It's a lot of technical work. With you have grant writers, you have professionals that help us with it, but it's something that's unfortunately quite necessary. So you're finishing the State House for 8 years, and you think like, okay, maybe I'll take a break, and I'll spend time with my kids, or maybe take a vacation. You said, no, you know what? There's a seat open in District 11, in Congressional District 11 in New Jersey. Hey, why don't I go to Washington instead? So how does that play out? How does that figure?
Well, something is true, Rabbi. I was going to hang up my cleats. I have to give my husband a shout out because he's been doing double duty and taking care of our youngest daughter, who's now 11. Started out, she was about 3, right? But once I saw the government shut down, and how the underserved, right, who we should also be laser focused on the needs of healthcare, food security, our democracy too, that I've worked so hard on these past 8 years, ensuring everyone has equal access to the ballot box. And then, just getting calls, right, from, a member of the Israel Commission, and they telling me again of another report of anti-Semitism of a college student. So I had to look my husband in the face. I actually, had to make him a dessert, one of his favorite desserts, right, to try to incentivize him.
What was it?
Oh my goodness, I throw down, and we did a video about this, I throw down on a red velvet Oreo cake that I make.
My daughter loves that. It's actually my daughter Gila. It's her birthday today. She turned 21. She's in Israel, and she got a red velvet cake, her favorite.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
I gotta make the red velvet for you because my red velvet. Oh my goodness, they adore it. I have to say.
And he had already quite literally hung up his cleats.
He did. He did. So I was hanging up my cleats right next to him, but I told him, healthcare. I went through, democracy. I went through opportunities. And I said, Charles, I love my Israel Commission, and I can't, they're family to me. They're family. And so we got our girls together all across the country, our older daughters, they're all across the country doing their thing, work related. And everyone said, Mom, you go for it, because we know that you are a protector. That's who you've always been. And that's where I am right now. And that's what, I want to continue to fight for. And at this very moment, and I know there's a lot of candidates in the race, but the thing, what we want is someone, in my humble opinion, who has done the work. You mentioned the intricacies in getting grants on the street. It delivered. I've done that. And I know where to go. I know all the layers of the grant writing and what specifics that communities need. And I just take great joy, and I just feel blessed, Rabbi. I've always been one who has been public outreaching, and that's what I want to continue doing.
You certainly made yourself quite available to our community, which is incredible. It's in such a short time, when there's such a short runway for this special election.
Yeah, but I guess for me, it dates back to when I started doing the work for the community. I even, for the first time in New Jersey, we were speaking about economics. I said, given I had an international portfolio too in the Department of State, I wanted to be the first to convene this Middle Eastern Economic Forum. I brought dignitaries from Israel, from Cyprus and Greece, because I know of the value of that international alliance, and I wanted it to be in the great state of New Jersey. And one of my favorite Israeli dignitaries will always be Deputy Counsel Nitzan, who was like 6'8" or what have you, even though I did get to meet in fellowship with the new Deputy Counsel, Zach Sar, and he's phenomenal too.
And you've been to Israel.
And I've been to Israel 2019 on a delegation through AJC with National Secretaries of State, because I wanted to ensure that I was fully informed and educated so that I could be that messenger when it came to explaining out the security needs, right?
Because being there makes all the difference.
It truly does. And when you sit and you listen and you witness, you then understand the shared democratic values we have. I even look at, and not everyone, but there's a good chunk of people who understand the similarities between New Jersey and Israel, not just in population, but in respective culture and in the business climate, innovation, tech. But I also wanted to just bear witness to the intelligence and security cooperation, right? So that I can message to communities and be down in DC and say, you know what? There should not be any condition on security funding whatsoever. Absolutely not.
Hear, hear. And having been there and then taking that sort of natural progression from the State House to the streets of Washington and Congress and the halls of Congress, I think you have the expertise, the know-how, and I think you have the gravitas. You understand exactly what it's all about, and I think you understand our community, which everybody should really grasp that, because this is a crucial election, not just for New Jersey 11, but I think for the entirety of the Jewish community and the U.S.-Israel relationship, because so much is dependent on every single member of Congress, and that's why it's so important to us, and that's a major issue for us. Obviously, we have regular kind of New Jersey issues.
Yes.
My wife's trying to figure out how to get to the city every day on New Jersey Transit. We'll get to that one day, but right. But I'm saying for our voters, we fear for our lives at times. Cool. And you understand that, and we fear for the students that we have on campus wherever they are, and we just want to do the best to be upstanding Americans. We love this country. We love America, and we love Israel too, but we love America, and as good Americans, we want to be part of the process. So I urge all of our has to please make sure that you should go out and vote. Early voting has begun, correct?
It sure has.
And I'll just point out that even if someone is registered as an independent, you could declare a party on the day of election for this special primary. And the primary is actually on the 5th, right? On Thursday. And early voting, I think, is
it's on the 3rd.
Right.
But we're encouraging people to vote now because we got some winter snow, winter weather, and you never know what's going to happen on an election day. And in fact, just so that your viewers know too, there's someone sitting in this car who implemented early voting, and it's candidate Tahesha. So, that's another way I opened up democracy.
Okay.
None of the other candidates did it.
I did not know that.
See, none of the other candidates did that. And even when, the audience members, if they vote by mail and they now can return their ballots at the secure drop boxes, the candidate who's sitting right next to you, Rabbi, is the one who implemented the 400 ballot drop boxes.
Wow.
Yeah,
so my of age children who have utilized that system, thank you.
Yeah.
Because being away in school or even out of the country was quite beneficial in previous elections. So, and also I want to just share a little bit of a rabbinic tidbit, but this is important. So, your maiden name is right.
Yep.
So you are the right way.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. You see, we couldn't resist such a softball. But I just want to first of all I want to thank you for your friendship, not just personally, but really for our entire community. It is so much appreciated. It is not, what you do is not lost on us. And I wish you a tremendous amount of luck. And again, it's up to us. We have to get out and have our voices heard. We have to have our votes counted. And it's extremely important because this is a special primary election, and the primary is the election. Let's not kid ourselves. So this coming Thursday or up until then, to please vote. Again, we wish you and your husband and your girls a tremendous amount of success. You will always have a place with us here at IHRA, and regardless of what happens, but we know it's going to happen. It's going to be good.
Exactly.
And we thank you so much for your time, and just, what? It's a lot to do, and just taking time this week when there's so much you have to do this week, right? And you know what? It just speaks volumes about where your commitment is, and I thank you so much. And you know what? God willing, we'll do this again when maybe in Washington. We'll do it in Washington. Well, I love that. Okay.
Thank
so
you so
lots of luck.
much,
Thank you
Rabbi.
so much. Go out and vote. Make your voices heard. Thank you.